Almost all people with our kinds of experiences would be living inside simulations rather than outside them.
If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then the games will become indistinguishable from reality.
It would have enough computing power to imbue the Sims inside of the program with all of the human traits that we possess now.
Correct. Not only our human traits, but the world.
Imagine somebody's watching you and everything you do, everywhere you go, and knows everyone you know. This somebody knows your neighbors, friends, family, and partner. And I'm not talking about the government, social media, or your weird community. I'm talking about somebody who made you, who placed you in your house or flat and decides about your life. Every day, every minute, every second. A voice in your head that guides your actions and decisions. Somebody who sees your life with all the peaks and lows, all its routines and drama as entertainment. What if the world around you is simulated and you are in fact a sim? Have you ever woken up after an intense dream, not knowing where you are? A brief moment of distinction between reality and dream. If you're not capable of doubting the validity of your dream, how do you know whether you are not dreaming right now? Around 400 BC, ancient Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi challenged this distinction with a famous story of a butterfly.
Taoist master Zhuangzi once had a vivid dream that he was a butterfly. He fluttered through the bushes and the trees, having a simple consciousness. He no longer had any awareness of his individuality as a human, and all he knew was the life of a butterfly. He flew around the gardens, experiencing fully the existence of a mere insect, and suddenly he awoke and was taken out of his dream. He sat up and looked around and thought to himself, was I a man who just dreamt about being a butterfly? Or am I now a butterfly dreaming that I am a man?
And someday there will be a great awakening when we know that this is all a great dream. In Aztec belief, earthly existence was described as consisting of pictures, images, and symbols painted, written by a divine entity by the name of Teotl. With flowers you paint, O giver of life. With songs you give color. With songs you give life on the earth. Later you will destroy eagles and tigers. We live only in your painting here, on the earth. During the 17th century, in Europe, René Descartes took a similar trail, asking the questions, how could anyone know that anything, including oneself, actually exists, rather than being a dream or phantasm? On his quest for certainty around this question,
whether it might all be a dream, Descartes began by observing that our human senses are deeply unreliable. He couldn't, for example, he said, be trusted to know whether he was actually sitting in a room in his dressing gown next to a fire, or merely dreaming of such a thing. But there was one thing he could know for sure. He could trust that he was actually thinking. His existence could be proved by a neat tautological trick. He could not be thinking and wondering if he existed if he did not exist. Therefore, his thinking was a very basic proof of his being. Or, to return to the maxim, I think, therefore I am.
As time went on, the idea that our world is not real did not vanish, but it was brought to a different level, or rather scientific area. A bit further away from religion and philosophy, the renowned physicist and Oxford professor Nick Bostrom published a paper in 2003 with the plain title, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation? This paper had a huge impact on the expansion of the so-called simulation hypothesis, a theory that proposes that all our existence is a simulated reality, such as a computer simulation, spreading awareness around the globe with powerful advocates like Elon Musk or Neil deGrasse Tyson, allowing a renaissance of the old argument and leading it to the digital 21st century. But why is it so convincing? The answer to this question is easy and difficult at the same time. In his paper, Bostrom uses 3 propositions that, if true or not, show that our world is not real, hence a simulation. The first proposition is that humanity goes extinct before reaching a post-human stage. A stage in which extreme human enhancements lead to a new mode of humanity. If this is the case, the 3 steps would end here, and it is unlikely that we live in a simulation. If not, the next proposition comes in. Any post-human civilization is extremely unlikely to run a significant number of simulations of their evolutionary history. As we run many and various simulations today, the idea is that humanity would stop someday due to any reason, including ethical. If this is the case, the steps would end here and we would not live in a simulation. The last proposition, therefore, is simple. We are almost certainly living in a computer simulation.
So there's this argument that shows that one of these 3 is true. And the full argument involves some probability theory, but the basic idea can be grasped quite simply, which is that suppose it were the case that the first possibility did not obtain. So then some non-trivial fraction of civilizations at our stage eventually reach technological maturity. Then suppose the second possibility also does not obtain. So some non-negligible fraction of those mature civilizations are still interested in using the resources to running ancestor simulations. You can then show that because each mature civilization that devoted some resources to this purpose could run astronomical numbers of ancestor simulations, you can show that if the first 2 possibilities do not obtain, then there will be many, many more simulated people like us than there will be non-simulated people like us. In other words, almost all people with our kinds of experiences would be living inside simulations rather than outside them.
Bostrom argues that if technology advances and humanity does not die out, humans will use more and more computing power to a point in which there might be planet-sized computers. Similar to today, it is very much likely that future generations use these computing powers to create all sorts of simulations.
Right. It could be hundreds, thousands, billions. Infinite.
All right, so far this sounds like it still works.
That's fine. So now close your eyes, throw a dart. Which of these universes are you going to land in? The first one that's real or the gazillion that are not? There's 1 in a zillion, you're the real universe, and 999 gazillion to 1 that
you're a simulation.
That convinced me.
In this sense, if you cannot even distinguish between a dream and reality, it is very unlikely that you know that your world is not simulated. Here it is possible to draw some loose analogies with religious conceptions of the world. In some ways, the posthumans running a simulation are like gods in relation to the people inhabiting the simulation. The posthumans created the world we see. They are of superior intelligence. They are omnipotent, in the sense that they can interfere in the workings of our world, even in ways that violate its physical laws. And they are omniscient, in the sense that they can monitor everything that happens. As the painters or creators of a simulated reality, the creators of course have a function for this world. It might be an ancestor simulation that shows where the posthumans came from, a war simulation, a challenge in global warming simulation, or rather a less scientific approach. It could be a retro simulation that shows the beauty of the world, unspoiled of future events, or even less sophisticated. We could live in a digital game for bored posthumans, a massive virtual dollhouse. Let's follow this concept and see where we get with it.
In this game, you design, build, and maintain your own dream city. You're sort of a combination between the mayor and the king. You make all the decisions. You build the highways, factories, and homes. Figure out the zoning and set and collect the taxes from your citizens. As your city gets bigger, so do its problems. You have to figure out how to deal with the gridlock traffic and battle pollution, litter, and crime. Look for this one to hit the shelves in May of 1991.
As there might be some relation between our world and the world of the creators, there is the assumption, of course, that we are like them in a sense, but less advanced in technology. Therefore, we also create simulation games like SimCity, for example, in which you could control the development of a virtual city in 1991 already. If I say we, of course, I'm talking about the legendary game designer Will Wright, who was so spurred by the success of his game, SimCity, that he decided to zoom into one of the Sim cities in which his virtual children live.
There's always going to be some box, some creative box around us, and people are going to be afraid to leave the box because, you know, they're going to go broke or their game's not going to sell well. But if occasionally somebody can jump outside the box and be successful, then that expands the box.
Will Wright has sold 15 million games that have no monsters, no shootouts, not even winners and losers. He's made games out of making life work.
Later on, in the previous games, the dollhouse aspects grew more and more to a point in which you could observe and play multiple generations of Sims. One of the first things people generally do with a game is to put themselves into it. Maybe their family, their wife, their neighbors, their house. As you are playing, you are, for the Sims' point of view, balancing all these factors in their little life. Work, family, kids, and all that. And you can't help as you play the game for a little while, but start developing a deeper awareness of your own life. As a wonderful source of escapism, The Sims offers the player a control over a perfect life simulation in which the designed people easily climb the career ladder step by step, becoming renowned artists, crime fighters, or the president. You can easily buy a house, find a partner, and get children as to fulfill society's demands. Some real people might even argue that they would prefer to live in the world of The Sims instead of reality. Shortly after Bostrom's essay on simulation went viral, Brian Weatherson, a professor from the University of Michigan, published an essay in which he connected the successful Sims franchise to the concept in a text by the name "Are You a Sim?" Even though he disagrees with Bostrom's concept, he states the following: "Right now, the Sims have fairly primitive psychologies, but we can imagine this will be improved as the game evolves. The game is very popular now, and it seems plausible that it and the inevitable imitators will become even more popular as its psychological engine becomes more realistic. Since each player creates a neighborhood with many, many Sims in it, in time the number of Sims in the world will vastly outstrip the number of humans." If we apply now the concept of Bostrom to this idea, we could come to the conclusion that our world is basically part of a simulation that might be closer to The Sims than to a research-based ancestor simulation. Therefore, each person in your surrounding might be either created by a post-human god or by random from the system itself. There might be people that are strictly monitored by these creators with certain plans for their lives, while others were created in order to lift these people up. Each choice you made might be monitored by the posthumans, changing your behavior in favor of certain outcomes. A career upgrade, a chance to form a family, or an entertaining story, whatever. Bostrom has mostly been criticized for the missing idea of free will and freedom. However, based on modern philosophy and even physics, the concept of free will is not really convincing anymore. Or as Brian Greene puts it,
we are collections of particles fully governed by physical law, and every thought that we have, every action that we take is nothing but those particles playing out the dictates of the mathematical equations, the physical laws. So that version of free will, and I think it's the intuitive one, seems to me to be completely incoherent.
So if we imagine that we were created by post-human gods from the future as something that is similar to the game of The Sims, what does this tell us about the world of our creators or puppet masters? It might be possible that post-humans adore our world in a similar fashion as we enjoy The Sims. Maybe they look at our world as their form of escapism. Maybe their world is more advanced but lacking the beauty that our world still offers. Maybe we can still achieve things they are not capable of anymore. It might be also the case that love, hate, loss, sickness, war, peace and drama are not part of the post-human future anymore. That is maybe why they want to experience alienated feelings here. It can also be the case that our world is a satirical take on something that stems out of the post-human reality. Within the strangeness of a simulated reality, there might be the elevating thought that our world was designed to be beautiful. And maybe we were created by depressed gods as a form of distraction and escapism. In the old Greek dramas, for example, the gods commonly observe humans and their efforts while getting along with their own traumas. If we feel alone, depressed and underachieving, The Sims offers us a virtual dollhouse for escape. And maybe it is the same with our post-human counterparts. Perhaps Zhangze was right, and someday
there will be a great awakening, and then we will be able to meet the gods that used us to feel a little bit better.
Yarmy Denzel table dupes, Eepy Dooka me my shoes, Hipsy kick you walk out.